Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for another qualification series into the Battlement stage. We've got TheNightFox versus JujiK for our penultimate qualification set. One of these two players will make it into the Battlement stage of Acropolis number 3, and the other one will be out. And I switched back to JujiK just in that time when talking about out because he is the significant underdog. Obviously, we did see TheNightFox be cast down to the lower bracket courtesy of none other than Smarty Cakes' Terran. Took advantage of a fox that was certainly out of the bag, out of practice, out of a little bit of understanding of the meta. Needs to come and swing in here because JujiK has been grinding through Gauntlet Stage B, Gauntlet Stage C. Both saw JujiK make it pretty damn far. And this will be his second attempt at qualifying after suffering 3-0 defeat at the hands of I Am the Wheat of God. So, that is an interesting situation to find yourself in, but TheNightFox will still be participating. The Vivid Red Protoss in the top right. JujiK, the Silver Pink Protoss in the bottom left. We've got P-Mirror action over here, as JujiK has absconded from the random role in his run in Gauntlet Stage C. He was random in Gauntlet Stage B and rolled a lot of Zerg. Certainly a lot of Zerg. And take a quick look at our map veto here for this best of 5. We see that Radium was selected by TheNightFox after Decapitation and Brainstorm were banned. JujiK opted to pick Serenity as the second map, and Blackwater Bastion will decide things if this is indeed a 3-0. If we need more maps than that, Kingwa Valley, Near Impact. A Near Impact decider would be pretty sick, but not something that I think we're going to get. Usually we get Near Impact way earlier in series. To see it be a map that so many people have played, it's kind of like the Demoloon of a previous version of Acropolis. Acropolis number 2, Demoloon, was a very common map. So to see it be sort of supplanted in that way by none other than another JujiK map, a 2.0 version of Near Impact, is pretty neat. Got the Dracodon chasing the Scribe, so that will not get anywhere. In these kinds of small situations, it's kind of helpful to, if you know your worker is 1,000% dead, kind of helpful to just move them a different way, right? Just be like, let me go. I'm going to go to the top left, and you can chase me. Looks like Fox actually wants to fall back anyway, though. Not sure if there's Legionnaires coming or a Hierophant coming to tag him and kill him, stuff like that. Hierophant does 1v1 on Dracodon because of the attack speed slow. The surprise for the first time people have that happen, and then they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I got to run. And they can't because they're slowed as well. But yeah, just an interesting map veto here. Also worth pointing out that JujiK vetoed Check Stealer. Normally he picks it in. Did not want to pick it into TheNightFox, though. Had some concerns about that. So this is the first time I'm actually seeing JujiK play P-Mirror in quite a while. Obviously he did play against Doglived. I did not actually catch that set, but it was a 2-0 in favor of Doglived. So he has some recent experience, even though I haven't seen it. Hopefully he's learned some lessons there. He can assemble a good composition. He's going to be relying on Legionnaires as the initial frontrunners here, and he has some Manifolds as well. That's going to increase the DPS of his Dracodons against the enemy Dracodons here from TheNightFox just a little bit. Instead of dealing 13 damage, they'll deal 15. It's not really the end of the world there. The Legionnaires can pounce, certainly can isolate one of these targets. We need to see what the micro is like. Fox may have taken a step too far here, just waiting on those Legionnaires to connect, but JujiK is having a tough time actually ordering his units to do the right thing, and this is kind of dangerous with more units, Striders in fact, coming on down from the TheNightFox. Is an expensive army for him to be pushing out here with, but he certainly wants to, and I think JujiK really flubbed on an opportunity to use those Legionnaires properly. Just struggling on the macro. We got 3 more, or the micro rather, we got 3 more Striders on the way. 2 Dracodons came out. Apparently one of them was cut, or maybe it was just the off-kilter of waiting for the Hierophant, right? That's another option. But Fox might have been entertaining the idea of a Nexus, but scattered out his opponent's army and decided, okay, I'll delay my Nexus, and I'll see if I can go in a more consolidated posture. Now, we have a very critical lack of frontline units here, in my opinion, for JujiK. Or, I mean, you could also say we don't have that many backline units either. Oh, he might be able to catch this Hierophant really early on, but not focusing them down. That's a big target to be able to grab, and you can see, right, like without that Hierophant, it would be a lot harder to slow the ascent of all of these Zealots, and yeah, those Legionnaires, they're pretty good at doing the initial pick, but after that, they will die in the sustained combat, so it does end up feeling like he needs to consolidate defense around this ramp. He's actually going to allow the TheNightFox to come in, who's more than happy to be afforded it. He doesn't see JujiK turning around. Now, this might be a little bit too bold. A lot of Manifolds coming out here. JujiK spending a lot of Vespene on that. Really feels like he needs more Striders. He needs more punch to his army because those Zealots will be focused down. Kind of think about it like if you have a bunch of Dragoons in StarCraft 1 PvP, you can snipe Zealots. It just takes a really long time and most people wouldn't bother. But if you have a small number of them and you don't have any backline of your own to make that trade somewhat punishing, that's a big problem. Now, the Ecclesiast going down, that was an opportunity for JujiK to decide to commit to the fight. Instead, he decides to fall back, which, you know, we've seen his army get reset quite a bit here. Makes a lot of sense for him to do that. His rallies are not set very far forward. He's certainly under the pump in this first game, and it feels a little bit dangerous here, especially as he rallies several Drakadins forward. Oh, what has gone on? I don't know what he was looking at there, but he was not looking at the fight, and that might be all the TheNightFox needed to achieve utter ground control here in this opening match. He's got reinforcements. Oh, 6 Drakadins coming on in. This is over, ladies and gentlemen. JujiK is going to have to concede. I think it was fine that he made his Nexus, but he absolutely could not afford to hemorrhage so many units and then to waypoint 3 Drakadins in. No saving here. No opportunity to build up any sort of static defense to support the extra economy he would have had. And even though he's fighting with the battle workers, GG is called. TheNightFox goes up 1-0 very early on. And I almost cut before the score screen, but it must be nice for TheNightFox to win so handily. It wasn't nearly as back and forth or scary as the match against Smarty Cakes was on Radium, so he's going to go in with a lot of momentum to our second map of the set. Let's see what's behind door number 2. Here we are for Serenity. This is JujiK's map pick, and he is our silver-pink Protoss in the top right. TheNightFox, our green Protoss in the bottom left, and, you know, I think he might be starting to warm up. I don't know if you can call him green anymore. Obviously, I guess green is reserved for true rookies, and TheNightFox has made it into an Acropolis before. Acropolis number 2 saw him in the same Battlements group as Art of Turtle and the Shambler, and if you were around then, you know what happened there. But now that the rules have changed, TheNightFox can't do that again. He's certainly coming on in and looking with a lot of momentum to go for Lattice first this time around. That's interesting. So Lattice into Gateway, we'll have to see if in that particular PvP setup works out in favor of Fox. I don't want to say that he's so strong that he could basically do anything into JujiK. I do think that JujiK is stronger than that last match shows when he's on game in focus. But there might be a chance where he's feeling a little bit like intimidated. It sounds like a really strong word for this, but he might just be feeling like, well, I'm the underdog and I don't have much of a chance. And that's not the attitude you got to look at. You got to look at, if Smarty Cakes could do it, I can do it too. Charge into battle. And I guess his Drakadins did kind of do that in that last one. They did charge into battle and then they died. But, you know, if you charge slightly more intelligently, strategically, just deliberately, and with micro, you might be able to make it happen. I'm just saying. Going to be a Vassal first here for TheNightFox. Stylistically, this can clash with the Legionnaire opening that JujiK did in the last game, but it will be a Drakadin first. So unless that Drak moves all the way across the map, which, seeing as the Vassal will be scouted by JujiK's Scribe, it really shouldn't move across the map, or if it does, it should be like with an Ecclesiast here as backup or something. That feels like it'll be just fine. The double lattice strat is scouted. He's also noticing that TheNightFox is still harvesting Vespene, albeit only with 1 gas workers. So it's an opportunity for him to think about whether or not he's actually going for mass Vassal or even mass Simulacrum. As we start to see Sims pop out, the Vassal has claimed the first kill of the second map here. It is going to be a Scribe kill. And there's a Matrix on the way for defending those workers, while the Drakadin remains vigilant for something that may occur. So this is successfully essentially put JujiK into a defensive stance. And Gateway units do outtrade Lattice units in, you know, anywhere close to even numbers, but Lattice units can eventually outnumber the Gateway army. And we did see JujiK assemble a large number of like manifolds, right, which are Lattice units. That increases armor pen for as many as are actively fighting in any small area. So that's one of those things that does make it so that you can use things like Simulacra and still find a lot of success. I didn't catch... Okay, the Vassal's all the way over there, off to the side in the top right base, so it's just going to kind of camp out there. We've got plenty of units here, and of course the Matrix forced out very early. It almost feels like the Matrix should have been delayed into something else. It's also a bit more expensive than the Warden, all things considered. Now we see double Rogue Gallery. This kind of points to me as, even though we see a Kabbalist, the double Rogue Gallery and, you know, the Manifold Lattice, you know, Simulacrum build or whatever, this kind of makes me think of Barghest Vassal. You know what I mean? Like, I almost feel like we're going to see that kind of action over here. But I could be wrong, and the Kabbalist will come out pretty quickly. Double Manifold means that the Sims will have 2 armor pen. That will clear the Drakadin, and if Zealots come into the fray, they will, you know, once the shields go down, that'll clear all of the Zealot hijinks as well with their armor. A second Matrix. I guess it's kind of good into Kabbalist and into the, specifically into the, like, Vassal Barghest, but Kabbalist will actually still one-shot the Scribe, so it might not actually be that good. This is just a lot of money to sink into static defense in the main base, but JujiK will be going ahead and dropping a Nexus. So the TheNightFox staying somewhat adaptive. So there's a couple of schools of thought here. If you feel like you're by far and away the favorite in the series, but you know that your series in the tournament will be watched by other players that you may face off against, it can be helpful to essentially know that, like, oh, okay, I'm going to either try a bunch of random stuff that I probably wouldn't expect to work, and I won't try at all, but I'll kind of flood the zone with nonsense, essentially, as far as what they're expecting from me. Or I will go a different direction entirely and just do the same strategy over and over again and show nothing in terms of a disparity. And then maybe abandon that strategy or modify it heavily going into the next round, right? So that could be something that the TheNightFox is deliberately doing, or maybe he's just kind of vibing out. He might not be thinking that deeply about it at all. I'm just kind of talking about how, you know, you might think about game theory along a long enough series. Vassal scouts the Nexus on the way. Kabbalists scout the move out, and it's not something that JujiK seems to have noticed. So the real question here is whether or not this ground army from JujiK is actually going to be able to clear the ground army from Fox, but it looks like I think Fox is just going to clear this ground army himself, and the Kabbalists come back to add insult to injury, but I don't even think they were necessary, to be honest with you. I think JujiK took a pretty poor engagement there, wasn't quite focusing the heavy hitter units, the manifold specifically, and the Kabbalists coming in to just adding, I was going to say add insult to injury, but it's even worse than that, really. I think they just basically decapitated him. He's going for the Bulwark for detection, but it's going to come in way too late. Finally, that Vassal will be destroyed. The only air unit for the TheNightFox to make. He is making a Witness now, but it's, I think, surplus to requirements. This looks like another one-sided affair, as that static defense will need to be canceled. First worker kill going the way of the Kabbalists. There's a second one as well. And yeah, that's all right. He doesn't even cancel. The Kabbalist will be revealed by the Bulwark, but only for just a short moment before it is destroyed utterly. And the Nexus will go down next as the ground army continues to chew through what JujiK has. Man, this looks very one-sided for our first two maps, but I mean, it wouldn't be the first time we had a qualification set like that. In Gauntlet Stage C alone, we did have the previous one, Doglives versus AOT, but JujiK is definitely struggling a little bit. He's going to need to think pretty hard and dig pretty deep, and Blackwater Bastion will be his final stand. Otherwise, his battle workers come out. Maybe he can actually hold this, and remember, he does have double worker production, but the Sims are killing this Nexus. Meanwhile, that might actually happen. Oh, he might not even be able to get out of dodge here because the Sims are starting to split. The battle workers bleeding them off, and I think, yeah, with that and the Nexus falling, it's definitely over. He's lost too many workers, lost too many units, and you might not be able to depower these structures anymore because they're around a big old Nexus, but GG is still called, and that is going to be a 2-0 start for the TheNightFox. It's, like I said, just a little bit too tough for JujiK to overcome there in the early game. He needs something that's going to be a little bit safer, but it's hard to anticipate what the TheNightFox is going to throw at him. Well, we'll find out, as that sound probably sounded almost like a little bit of a round of applause there. That was my dog shaking because the TheNightFox is worthy of applause, according to my hound. There you go. Clan dog really coming off. GG. We'll be going into our third map now. Starting this one off looking at JujiK because the onus is on him. This is elimination point. His last chance in the Gauntlet stage. My dog even trying to cheer him on. And, well, I don't know why Shambler's typing, but don't worry about that. JujiK is in the bottom right as, of course, Silver Pink, Protoss, and the TheNightFox is in the top left. Once again, rockin' green. So, cross positions in a 4-spawn map. The question is, how soon will each player scout, and where will they go to do the scouting? It's a gateway opener for both players, and I do feel like this is going to be, I guess, a fairly standard opener by all accounts. We don't have Vespene being harvested by either player, so it's probably 2-gate. 2-gate expand is a fine build order for Protoss, and especially on a 4-spawn map, it feels like it's quite doable, especially if you end up scouting your opponent second at the latest. If they are close positions, and it depends on each 4-spawn map which is actually closer. I believe Blackwater is pretty even split, but definitely vertical spawns are a little bit closer than the horizontal spawns, just looking at it. And of course, cross is going to be like about a minute of worker travel time. That might sound really weird to StarCraft 1 players, but you got to remember our workers move slower than in StarCraft 1. That is just to make it so that the mining is in accordance with what we actually wanted for harvesting. Also, there's no accel and decel for the workers, which makes it pretty consistent, pretty helpful. I mean, we overhauled a lot of the code for harvesting and worker wandering and stuff. Shout out Veek7 for doing that. Sometimes it still gives you some cases you wouldn't really want, but for the most part, it normalizes quite well, especially once you get good saturation going. So I think it's pretty functional. We got 3-gate, actually, for JujiK here, and the same for the TheNightFox. It's going to be 3-gate on each player's setup here. Their loadout has been selected, and is it just going to be like Zealot Ecclesiast? Well, you have a Dracodon coming up for JujiK already. Legionnaire for scouting for both players. I love pairing it with the Scribe. It basically confirms that you're going to be avoiding running into a tough spot where you scout your opponent last. So he's going to clear both of the close positions with his initial scouts, and in the process, he will end up eliminating both of those as potentials. Legionnaire actually going to chase after the Scribe here. This one arrives at the top right and sees nothing. Oh dear. Gee willikers, Batman. There we go. All taken care of. Well, with all that said, we've got Dracodons, we've got Zealots. Looks like it's going to be a pretty bog standard gateway army there for JujiK. Kind of like PVT in StarCraft 1, Zealot Dragoon. But we are going to see a small slate of Zealot Ecclesiast out of Fox. And it looks like he might be trying to expand, considering his mineral count. So the onus will be on him. That Legionnaire does end up going down after confirming the spawn position of JujiK. I mean, very unlikely you'd have your army just on another choke point. That would be one hell of a mind game. JujiK not doing that. Didn't have time to do that. Also might look at that unit count and think, oh, it's 3-gate as well. I don't know how alert Fox is to the timing of all of those units. But the unit count there is obviously something that's only feasible to get at this stage of the game with those particular kinds of units. The way that Dracodons obviously take a bit longer than a lot of the other combat units do to train. Yeah, that's one of those things that definitely you look at and you say, okay, this motherfucker, he is absolutely going for 3-gate as well. Legionnaire coming in to see, and also split up this army. Sees the Nexus, gonna get into the main base where there might be some pursuit. Fox does keep most of his units on the ground floor here, but a little bit of focus fire would go a long way here for JujiK. He's trying to bruise the Zealot, but look, the Ecclesiast is just sustaining way too much. The one Legionnaire seems to have been caught down. No silver pink dots in the minimap, at least. The Hierophant coming up a little bit too close for comfort on the Zealots, and to me it feels like there's really no hope for JujiK to break this position. So that doesn't mean he can't do anything, but it does mean he's behind economically. What's he going to do in response? Still 3 Dracodons. Makes a lot of sense as far as what he's making, but he's going to start to need crowd control pretty soon. Loving an Ardent Authority here. I think it was Hit 'em Up who was playing Mass Positron against Arbuz, which is pretty funny to think about because Arbuz recently said Positron was nerfed too much or something, and then of course here's Hit 'em Up to monocomp them to some degree, and that ends up doing pretty well against stuff like this in my opinion. So that or a Cantors, of course, would be a great choice. So with the Matrixes, with the fact that we've got Wardens, it does feel like the TheNightFox is going into a pretty defensive stance. He knows that the onus is on his opponent to break him because he scouted no Nexus and 3-gate unit quantity. So he knows that, okay, my opponent has gone for something less economic than I have. My macro is just generally better anyway. Already, as the Nexus starts to saturate, JujiK is down 8 workers, right? And so obviously this Nexus has been up for a little bit, but not long enough to make 8 workers. So that already kind of tells you there are some cuts into the worker production there for JujiK to afford this army and to get it going. And it is a formidable army as far as sniping individual targets goes. He almost needs to start doing that, even though it's a micro-intensive task. And it looks like JujiK wants to try to double expand here as he's thinking about setting up another Nexus. Sedent's on the way for the TheNightFox, meanwhile, capping his ridges. Not a bad choice. But as long as the containment is set up, I suppose it's a good enough strategy to just try to expand twice behind it. The problem that I would have with this for JujiK's sake is we're going to be dealing with an army that's going to get to a critical mass pretty soon where if you whittle it down at the very least, that's going to provoke your opponent into something else. And plus, even in that Smarty Cake series, we saw the TheNightFox float a decent amount of cash. So if you strain his multitasking, that might be a way to take advantage of his, you could say, rust a little bit as he's trying to get a little bit more into the series, into the game. We obviously have the third Nexus coming for JujiK finally, and a couple Zealots going to lead the charge, but the Matrixes plus Ecclesias make that really difficult to make anything happen with. Thankfully, his Zealots are so beefy, they just still shrug that off. They still have a little bit of oomph to them. Triple Drac coming in on the way here for JujiK, and yeah, he's just going to continue pounding Striders until he gets to the point where he's ready to drop a little bit more. Already getting some static defense in, fearing some kind of air transition. It is going to be double Grand Library and an Ardent, as well as an Embassy. So he could be dropping a Cantors and Cantavis. It feels like that would be sick behavior, but absolutely a feasible thing to do. Something to worry about. Great saturation here for the TheNightFox. He's got 16 in the main and 16 in the natural. We love to see that. Plus, of course, full saturation on the gas, or baseline, I suppose. Full saturation would be 3. But he can't actually start thinking about expanding until a little bit later, once he evicts JujiK from his doorstep. Absolutely a possibility, but might be a bit of a unfortunate trade if he moves away from his matrixes. Still, I think it would be fine. He can afford to trade a little bit cost inefficiently, at least for now. JujiK has not saturated his third base, and his worker count is still 15 worse than the TheNightFox's. Ardent Authority about to finish. We already have Atriuses being made, so it looks like this will indeed be an Acantor drop. Now here come the Zealot and Ecclesias forces that the TheNightFox has assembled with the intent to clear some of the Striders out of the doorstep. That Hierophant will go down if presented a little bit further. Looks like 5 Zealots total go down, but one of them was JujiK, so 4 of the TheNightFox's Zealots. I mean, for 400 minerals, putting the Fear of God in your opponent, taxing his multitasking, I think that's more than worth it. Remember, as soon as Fox breaks out, he can start to take more expos. He's got the better tech coming. And once again, JujiK very slow on the reaction. And Ecclesias goes down. That allows for the engage. The TheNightFox surging forward with all of his Zealots. He really forces JujiK away. And now he has access to that third base with the Atriuses coming in as well. That's going to be more consistent damage to deal with those Striders. And it looks like it's going to be the Acantor drop. The TheNightFox's usual strategy. He's used that against Smarty Cake several games in the series, I think the majority of the games. And now, Nexus on the third pretty soon, which is going to be a good opportunity here. I actually haven't even used the camera hotkeys for the extra bases here because I wasn't sure that we would get into another macro game, but JujiK has done well to take advantage of a little bit of the openings that he sees here, and now he's adding some static defense to that unsaturated third base. If there's anything to criticize here, it's definitely his tech and his economic development, which are two big things that are in favor of the TheNightFox as he's put down that Nexus at that third base, and of course still has much better worker count here. Although I say much better, actually JujiK has caught up. Only 6 the difference right now. Well, 5, but I'm expecting another worker to finish soon. There you go. So, yep, it's going to be going JujiK's way in the long enough time scale here, but he's going to need to hold this Nexus, and he has no forewarning that this base is going to be coming under attack from the north. 0 coverage with witnesses, 0 coverage with even just regular combat units, and the matrixes are exposed. Those things are dead. The engram won't even finish warping in. JujiK needs to be able to seize this possibility. The Ardent Authority births out an Acantor for him to use. He's got a Positron coming. The Nexus, the next target. That engram not canceled. The Nexus will go down. The Battle Worker's trying to just distract a little bit for the army to make things happen, but as the Ecclesias start to pop for Fox, he just falls back, and the Acantor drop, meanwhile, has already done some damage. It looks like we've got 7 or 8 Scribe kills. Remember, some of them died in the third base as well, as the Envoy pops back over. The Acantor died down here. I was wondering where it ended up going. So yeah, it has been cleared out, but JujiK either needs to go for the jugular and clear the deck now, or he's going to end up falling very much behind economically. Restacking his natural here would be a good choice. He's put down the Nexus at the third. It's going to slow his tech development as well. Remember that Ardent Authority has only made a couple of units so far, a Clarion on the way, but it looks like he's getting ready to attack well before the Clarion is available, and we still have Atriuses, Servitors. These pack a punch compared to their Tier 1 counterparts. They're better than Dracodons, they're better than the Simulacrum or even the Manifold. It's a great choice here to boost the combat DPS here of the TheNightFox. Positron out, but it's only 1. Needs way more than that to clear the deck of all of these closely bundled units. The Zealots, they're so clumped up, but it doesn't matter when you've only got 1 source of splash. The Acantor so slow to actually join this fight, and it's singular as well, solitary, even you could say unitary, and that seems to be the last of JujiK's forces falling. It looks like the TheNightFox is sauntering into the battlement stage right here before our very eyes. The Witness still spying this understrength, undersaturated third base, and only a few combat units left to make the last stand happen. The Clarion, forgotten, rotating over the Ardent Authority, hasn't even rallied over into the choke point, and JujiK might have just entirely mistaken the fact that he even made that. Totally slipped his mind. But as that third base becomes under fire before the engrams, even no halfway completion, it's over, I think. Too many Grand Library units, Ardent Authority units, even Gateway units, overpowering JujiK as the TheNightFox is able to cleanly make it in this lower match, this lower qualification. That's it. GG. JujiK probably also, I thought maybe he would be doing one of those classic moments where he's like, good luck in the battlements, good luck in the next stage. Sometimes players will do that. The TheNightFox will qualify in, and JujiK is with our hearts always. He contributed maps to the game, obviously Crisis Vector and Near Impact, both staple maps for 2-spawn 1v1. They are active in this tournament map pool, so I am sure he is still going to be with us in that respect, but he will not join us as a player. He had 2 opportunities to do so, but the TheNightFox, and of course I Am the Weed of God earlier in Gauntlet Stage B, end up proving too much the better. The TheNightFox only had 1 chance, remember. He signed up for Gauntlet Stage C only, and so when he dropped to the lower bracket, there was a chance there where we would be shocked to not see him make it in. But he is in, and it is done mostly without too much, I don't want to say without too much effort, but without too much fanfare. It didn't require a humongous effort. It wasn't stalled out the way that Smarty Cakes looked like he was going to make it until actually that underdog Terran took the whole set. So commiserations to JujiK, but I appreciate him joining us as an admin, as a map maker, as even a donor for that matter, but also as a player. It is very, very epic. With all that said, we of course have access to one final series between 2 upstart players that want to make it in, and one of them has been there before, Art of Turtle. The other one may be there for the first time. It'll be I Like to Eat Grass, also known as Grass Eater around the community. Join us for that Zerg Mirror. 1 Zerg will make it through the lower bracket, and of course, 1 Protoss has already made it. Congrats to the TheNightFox once again. We'll see you this weekend for the Battlement Stage.